This
PM
conference will
on
now be
May the
recorded.
26th. This is the regular meeting of the Rome City Council. I know there were a couple of people that showed up about the executive session. Kind of news to me. I didn't find out until after I got here. Anyway, okay, let's go to the invocation right off the bat.
Father God, we just thank you for this opportunity to come into your presence and into this thing that we call self-government. Lord, I thank you for everyone that is here. I thank you for all of those that are willing to serve. And Lord, in unity, we lift up those that are experiencing such a horrific event right now in Uvalde. We pray that your Holy Spirit would be with them, that you would comfort them, that you would give them peace in the midst of this tragedy. In Jesus' name, amen.
The United States of America,
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
just, justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, with God, one and indivisible.
Okay. Uh, Good to see some new faces here tonight. Thank you for coming. I believe we've got some public comments. Ms. Odom?
Yes, up first we have Mrs. Beecraft.
I'm Deborah B. Kraft. I live at 360 West 2nd. First, I would like to address the council. People that are listening on the phone cannot hear a raised hand or a head nod. So please speak when you're making your motions, your seconds, and your votes. I'm going to exclude the two new council people since they just took office. Never in any town that I have lived in have I seen such disrespect for the office of mayor. You don't have to like the person, but you should respect the office. Because your choice of mayor was not elected in 2020 or 2022, you have chosen not to work with the mayor or let the mayor do the job she was elected to do by the people. You have chosen not to include her in meetings or keep the mayor informed on what was going on in this town. I'm speaking past mayor. Even if the mayor does not have the power to make decisions, they have the right to be informed. Mayor Pittman not only had an office at City Hall, but a new desk was bought for her office, and I know none of y'all were here then, in the rented building, even though we had at least 4 desks from the old City Hall. Mayor Wilson was not allowed an office and was not treated as mayor. Now Mayor Mitchell is not even allowed at City Hall, inside and the back. Just because you don't like her, because for years she's spoken out about what she thought was wrong, you are going to do everything you can to keep her from her duties. Guess what? People have the right to voice their opinions, their displeasure, and even tell the government when they think they're wrong. Freedom of speech, the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You don't listen to us in the meetings, so our grievances have been taken to social media. By disrespecting the office of mayor, you have disrespected every citizen in this town, even if they didn't vote for these mayors. All you have done with your actions and attitude towards them is show the people that you don't respect them or their vote. Just because your candidate didn't win in 2020 or 2022, you have shown the people that unless they agree with you and your choices and your opinions, that they don't count. Guess what? We do count. The people in the city government say they want the division to end and the city to come together and work together. But the first thing you did was exclude the mayor from anything to do with running the city. You were voted in to represent the people. Your actions clearly show that the only reason you want in that council seat is for your own agenda to get what you and your friends want. That is not what you were elected to do. Since you have clearly shown that you cannot or not willing to do the job you were elected to do, to work together as a government unit, then if you're not willing to try to do that and start doing it now, then I'm asking you, place 1, 2, and 3, to resign your seats effective immediately. Thank you.
And next we have a submittal from Lisa Ann Wilson. It says, Ms. Mitchell won her position as mayor on May 7th, 2022. It was a hard fought win. She humbly accepted her victory with grace, integrity, and dignity. She immediately began to get resistance from some. The citizens spoke loudly and boldly that they were ready for a change and a more financial responsible, positive direction. As she made abundantly clear during her campaign, one of her goals was to get our city back on better financial footings and considering their pocketbooks. Many of us voted for Mrs. Mitchell, and I am proud to say that I was one of them. Most of us that voted for her did so with confidence that her past experience and intelligence and knowledge and willingness to be flexible and listen to our citizens as she makes decisions with her fine choice to lead our city. Those of us who faithfully support her feels she is more than capable of running the city and making smart decisions and meeting with department heads, developers, and citizens. Please let her step in and step up and do what the citizens voted her in, and they realize what she is capable of. Stop putting roadblocks and obstacles in her way. What happened to open, honest government with full transparencies? On May 18, 2022, Mrs. Mitchell was sworn in and immediately confronted by the administrator. Please let her have a chance to offer her thoughts and ideas. Quit trying to block her at every angle. A current sitting council person has already been on social media calling the mayor names. Even though this is against the expensive social media policy that has no teeth and mostly calls for kindness. In my opinion, that is just plain wrong. Stop fighting and accept that the majority elected Ms. Mitchell as our top choice to take us into the future as our new mayor. Thanks for your time. As a 56-year-old resident of the city of Rome, I am not as accused of by a current council person continuing the divide, merely looking out for the betterment of my hometown. Lisa Ann Wilson, 240 West First Street. And next we have Joanne Wilson.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I would like to address you and share something that was recently in a well-respected Wise County blog. It's, in quotes, Rome politics is a train wreck. That wasn't coming out of Rome, that's coming somewhere else. They have listened to various meetings that we've had. That is what they're coming up with. And I'm asking you, Council, are you part of the problem? Do you want this to be your legacy? As you know, I was never guilty of any abuse of city employees. That was another fabrication made on the political stage. Review the Rome YouTube channel to see what went on at the May 18 council meeting, which included swearing in of new members, one of which was our new mayor, Patricia Mitchell. Subsequent verbal attack by a staff member and comments by a councilman to require a witness at all times if the mayor meets with the city administrator, and this was for the administrator's protection. Come on, this is totally uncalled for. We are not in kindergarten. Let Patty do her job. Yes, there is a divide in this town. but one that can be quickly mended by our current city government. Council members, the ball is in your court. What are you going to do with it? Secondly, I understand these guys are going to be talking about a seismic survey. I am asking that the city make sure they know what the end game is going to be before any action. And lastly, I would like to see the executive session move back to the end of the council member. We had people here tonight thought we had an executive session, and no, we didn't. So if we had even a 6 o'clock meeting, I think would meet with most people's agenda. And then, if needed, an executive session after that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excuse me just a minute. If you're listening at home, please mute your microphone or mute your phones, please. What else you got, Miss Ellen?
Next, we have Sam Eason.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sam Eason. I live at 1107 Mount Lane. Respectful, professional, courteous. That's all that's being asked. When you only show aggression, you get aggression back. I'm willing to bet you want people to listen to you. You want your ideas heard. You want to be given a fair chance. These are all reasonable things to want. It's reasonable to expect them. What's not reasonable is to treat people with contempt and make unfounded accusations and then expect people to cooperate with you. That's not human nature. I'm willing to bet conversations with the two newest council members were polite and you showed respect. I'll also bet they showed you respect in return. It's a simple case of using the golden rule. If this line of reasoning doesn't work for you, how about this one? You have made accusations against me for more than 5 years. Why have you never filed charges with the rest of the council, the police, the sheriff's department, or the Texas Rangers? It's because you never had anything. You just spewed hate and accusations against me. You've been doing it to others too. I'm so sorry life has dealt you such a bad hand that this is the only way you know how to address conflict. Bless your heart. Are you willing to let go of the past and start over? Because I am. Respect, kindness, courtesy. These are things we all learned in kindergarten. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Next, we have Shirley Mize.
Hello, my name is Shirley Mize, and I live at 170 Russell. Good evening. I was extremely disappointed concerning the behavior of last week's meeting of swearing in our new mayor and council members, as well as the attack on the newly elected mayor by the city administrator. This council has created a divide in our city today because of their personal agenda. Your mayor, council members were voted in by citizens, and you need to respect those seats. You as council members are not in control of any mayor, council member duties, rights, decisions, but yourselves. But have a duty of working as a group of members, quorum, that is working together to resolve city needs to comply with city business. Elected members need to understand the agenda items that is brought before them, ask questions to clarify. If not clear, ask for more information to be given, with tabling the item if needed, and to vote the best interest for Rome and its citizens. Remember that the citizens are who pays the bills for this city. Second request, with new government elected officials in place and the duties of each member, mayor, councilman, I question why our mayor is not signing all contracts, agreements, legal documents on all city business paperwork starting as of last week. I request this to be addressed with council. Agenda item H, vandalism of a water bill is a homeowner's issue, not a city issue, and that cost will need to be filed with the citizen's homeowner insurance. City is not responsible. Agenda I, administrative overspent on contract labor $19,000 and wants to take it out of salary and wage expense budget. Please explain who was overpaid on contract labor to understand why this is happening. Police overspent $12,000.6 and want to take it out of insurance, property liability, and dues subscription. Please explain why equipment was overpurchased and why we are not bringing the overage back to the council to approve and then adjust the amended budget. Did you get 3 quotes for this equipment? Where is our buying power? I understood some time ago at council meeting that Rome would use the populated cities piggyback to help better price on items of need. Who in Rome is doing that today? Agenda J, Police Department is requesting 4 new leased vehicles for the budget of 2022 and 2023. But one of those vehicles is going to be PMV Rolling V. Why?
Next, we have Ashley Majors.
Sorry, hold on. Sorry. Okay. Okay, good evening. As I stand here before you tonight, I wanted to go line by line since it is my first council meeting, not sitting up here. I am taken back by the last meeting, by the actions of our previous council and the decisions that were made. I am in total disgust by Elaine, Michelle, and Josh out of your personal agendas and the way that you've acted.
Mayor, I believe the directions on
sorry.
the agenda say that nobody is able to
Okay.
point someone out. They need to
Okay, I'll
address
take
the
it back.
council as a
Use
whole.
general terms.
General terms. I'm learning. Okay, with not getting everything, with not even getting to know our newly elected mayor, and the 3 of you made fast action decisions and to force new elected mayor, the 3 of you made fast action decisions to force her to do business with the city administrator unless it is in a 24-hour notice. What is the simple, what if she has a simple question and did not think of that? Sorry, I did. What if one of you did not think of that? I had to change it up some. Furthermore, the 3 of you did not even welcome our newly appointed council members. With our new city in a total disarray, you would think at least one of our meetings, the city would work together. But that is why we are, why one of, I have to change this up. As our mayor, some of you have written about her in the newspapers, on social media, nodded to put her face on the front page of the city website about her open records request. So, but some of you, I know, does not have this contract in hand, but I will give this back to her. This is the contract of the Rolling V. So, thank you, Patty, for letting Joanne and I use it while we were on council, but now you can have the contract back. So, this is embarrassing to myself, why I stand here, why we have these nice gentlemen sitting in front of us, that we cannot show a Texas hospitality in our town, that we have to be embarrassed by the actions of others that I stand in front of. Thank you, and let's all try to get along.
Last, we have Donna DeGarmo.
My name is Donna DeGarmo. I live at 104 Kensington. And I don't think 3 minutes is going to get it for me, but I'll try. Number one, everybody has attacked Cynthia tonight because she was aggressive. Nobody mentioned the fact that Patty was very aggressive in return.
Please do not address
Oh, I'm sorry.
individuals.
Okay.
Nobody mentioned the fact that our new mayor, can I say that?
Please just address the council as a whole.
Okay. Nobody can address
Thank
the
you, Mr.
fact
McCabe.
that our council was very aggressive toward her. I guess that's a good one. Okay, that's one thing. Number two, our mayor ran with the intentions of bringing everything back together, being totally together and wanting to see the best for our city. Yet, there again, the mayor's duties, as I've learned, don't give her the opportunity to vote in that. So she should have thought of this before she ran. If she wants to object and things like that, she should have thought of that before she ran for mayor. Number three, I think that having three new people on our council is great. But as far as, anybody disagreeing with what our old council is doing, the new council doesn't know yet. I mean, I believe they're both even freshly new in our town. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. So anyhow, it would be like me all of a sudden, okay, I'm mayor, so let me have the ability to write this check or say no to this or say yes to that. I don't know. So how can you expect a brand new council to come up here and just take over if they don't know? I'm sure they're learning, but it takes time. So, and as far as the ability for people to meet one-on-one, the council, all of them agreed that this was okay for a 24-hour appointment and a witness. You all said yes to this last week. Why bring it up? The past, people, is the past. Who cares about a desk that one of the mayors had? Who cares that the new mayor may not have a new desk? Who the hell cares? Let's start from right now. I've done this before. I've passed this before. We cannot continue to run on the past. We should welcome our new council and go from day one and start our future. And that's all I've got to say. I mean, it's just like, leave the past alone. We can't change it. It's done. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Somebody is laughing.
What else you got?
This is the last speaker.
Very good. Let's move along. Announcements. May 30th, city offices are closed for Memorial Day. Veterans, Rome veterans do have their annual memorial tribute over at the Veterans Park on Saturday, the 28th of May at 11 a.m. You can join us. I believe she's got quite a line of speakers. Also, at June 11th, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., splash days at the fire department. Council meeting June the 9th. I would also ask, I think most of us were stunned over the tragedy that happened in Uvalde. And so in the areas of our community, we're pretty close knit. I would ask that you keep these folks in your thoughts and your prayers. We can't imagine the pain they must be feeling at this point. Thank you. I would appreciate that. We'll move on to regular agenda, new business, discussion, and
I
any.
believe other council members have some
Okay,
announcements.
go. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I would like to, I know that there was some mention about some of the audio stuff to do with our virtual meeting and then in person. And so I would just like to go over some of the things that would be helpful for all of us as far as hearing. And so we have to remember that people that sign in and also that are present, it may be their first time here and they're not aware of some of the things that we need to do to have good audio whenever it comes to especially the virtual participation. So I would just like to remind folks of a few items that will help us with the audio difficulties we sometimes have. And there are 4 things I'm going to mention, and they all have to do with keeping things kind of quiet so that the audio does work. It works on the recording as well as participation. The first one, public comments require written forms in advance. They can be read or spoken only during the public comments section of the agenda or when the council begins to discuss a particular agenda item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Other comments are not allowed during the business meeting. Second one, outside of public comment opportunities, the public cannot speak to the council without someone on the council asking a person for additional information that might be helpful to the topic being discussed at that time. If called upon, the person cannot speak from their seat. They must go to the podium microphone so that what they say can be heard by the virtual participants, as well as being a part of the video being recorded for record. Also, the recording is available to anyone through the city's YouTube link. The third one, inside the council chamber, conversations with your neighbor during the meeting interferes with the public meeting and is also picked up as buzz by the virtual listeners. Please go outside of the chamber for private conversations. And virtual listeners, there's some things that you can do as well. Virtual listeners must mute the microphone on your phones and computers during the entirety of the meeting, except if making a public comment or being called upon by a council member for helpful information. And I know some people may think that you go down to the volume on your phone or your computer and you mute that. That is what's being broadcasted to you. That's not what you are broadcasting. So it should be your microphone that you are turning down. If you don't turn down or mute your microphone, every word that you speak, every dog barking, every swear word, and every toilet flushing near the phone or computer is broadcasted and recorded. Not only does it interfere with others trying to hear, like in this meeting, and the mayor has already asked folks to please mute, technically it is a public outburst during the meeting. So please mute your microphones. So I'd appreciate it if everybody would help us have better quality as to the audio, and these are just some things that we can do to make that happen. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, I do. I have some factual statements I'd like to make about some of the citizen input tonight. This one is directed towards the council. Any and all documents pertaining to the city, especially for the new people, they're available at your request. So you can ask for any contract, any insurance card, any water bill that's ever paid. All you got to do is just email Cynthia, and Cynthia will get that information to you in a timely manner. And that goes along with your official city duties. I mean, if you're wanting to look at a project, you think some information will help you, Cynthia would be happy to help you look for the correct information that she thinks is going to help you. So all you got to do is email her. Secondly, Mayor Emeritus Pittman DeCredico did not have a desk purchase. There were no purchase records showing this, and she also did not have an office after the move from the old city hall. Thirdly and finally, the motion was not to close city hall back doors to everyone. Council and mayor does have official city business that does take action behind those closed doors. It was simply for unauthorized people to not be back there. Other than that, the other thing was the 24-hour notice is for a meeting. Anybody is allowed to email or call City Hall and speak with Cynthia directly or email her directly. She may not answer immediately, but she will definitely get back to you. So if you need to get a hold of her, just email her. She's pretty quick at getting back to it unless she's in a meeting somewhere. So that's all I have to say.
All right, let's move along. Regular agenda, new business, discussion, any necessary action regarding Dawson Geophysical Company's request for permission for 3D geographical seismic survey, and this will be the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got two gentlemen here tonight to give you all some information on what they are doing and what their request is for the city of Rome. They have about 9 properties that they would like access to, but I will let them go through that.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank Council. Thank the public.
You
My
can
name's
turn-
Jeff C.
You
with
can turn
Dawson.
that podium if you want. You can turn that podium
Okay.
on if you want.
My name's Jeff C. with Dawson Geophysical. I'm permit agent and lead contact guy on this project for the public and everybody's got any questions. Dan Noble's my land manager. First off, what we like to do here in town, including actually about 8 square miles of this area, not just Rome, is what's called a 3D seismic survey, and that's basically imaging subsurface geological formations. Oil and gas companies kind of see a clear picture beneath the surface on potential production on potential wells they're looking at drilling in the future. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to see my ugly backside. To this project here, we're showing basically what we're doing is recording sound waves. We got to send sound waves beneath the ground. We're recording sound waves to create that image. To do this, we do have to get on privately owned property, put some shoebox size recording devices on the ground. First off, I have a picture above. We'll have agents out in the field contacting private landowners, get consent to put these shoebox size recording devices on the ground that you see there on the top right. It's called a geophone. All it does is sit directly on the ground. Probably need to be down about 7 days total time. So we'll be going door to door, contacting the landowners to put these, and they typically go right next to the road, not in anybody's backyard or side of the yard or off the front steps. They're out of harm's way. Second off, to create the sound wave, right there on the top right, we'll have these vibra-sized trucks that actually will drive down the road about the speed of a street sweeper, and they'll set up about every 88 feet, I believe, is pattern. And what they'll do, they'll put a plate on the ground and shake the ground a little bit with low force, and that force sends sound waves beneath the ground, and that's what the data we record. You'll see the vibra-sized trucks going right there in front of some houses. We do have what's called a PPV monitoring third party that monitors the amount of source that we put beneath the ground to keep any properties from being damaged, infrastructure such as pipelines, what have you. So basically, as a rule of thumb, we'll be out here contacting landowners, get consent to put devices on the ground, and here to get council and mayor's approval to utilize roads and right-of-way for utilization of the trucks and equipment. That's basically it in a nutshell. Daniel, have anything else?
Yeah, I'll go over a couple of the actual impacts to the landowners inside the city limits. So when these trucks are driving down the street, the biggest part of what you're going to hear is just noise. They're really loud, they're really noisy. Typically what we do is try to do that during the working hours, 8 to 5. So, you know, if you're at work, hopefully you're not going to be disturbed at home. You have to be right next to these things to feel them. We've done some studies that she's clicking through on a few slides. In fact, downtown Fort Worth, they've conducted some studies on top of old city clay pipes just to make sure city infrastructure is safe. The levels that we operate at inside city limits are much less than what we do out in the field. So when we get out of town, these vibrators are shaking at a higher velocity. When we get in town, we make sure that the velocity is low enough where it's not going to impact anybody's homes, foundations, walls, things like that. So the permission that we're requesting is to operate the vibrators down the street, place the receivers in the right-of-way. We have predetermined locations. Some folks around town may have gotten a permit already. Others have not. The reason for that is the pre-plot is located. These points are located in a perfect spot. So in a perfect world, it would be at lot A on street B. If that receiver can't be there, we can move that a little bit, but we want to try to stay as close to home as we can. So not everybody will have a receiver in their front yard. It might be every 4 or 5 houses. But driving around town, you'll definitely see them.
These blue dots right here represent what a shoebox out in front of the eyes is meant to be out there to stay on. So it'll be spread out quite a bit.
And the other dots you see there, the red squares, if you really zoom in on it, which we can't really do right now, are where the vibrator trucks would stop and shake one of their points. Now, obviously, we have points going straight through town, right on top of people's houses. We're not going to do that. They're going to move to the streets in a safe spot. We have to get permission first, coordinate with Public Works. We call 811, call before you dig, even though we're not digging anything. We find a safe spot to put this stuff. So if the city has some sensitive infrastructure that we need to avoid any streets we don't need to go down because the utility line is running right down the middle of it, maybe that's a street where we do receivers only. And the receivers are just a passive recording device, not hurting anything. I think that's in a nutshell. I'm trying not to take too much time, but any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What are you looking for?
Oil and gas reservoirs. So
Oil and gas.
Bedrock Energy is our client, and they have some lease position in the area, west of town and also east of town. And so the end game, I think that was brought up in the public comment section, is they know oil and gas is here. They've done it before. You've seen it all around the area. They're trying to image it better to get to it better.
Okay. I will tell council that it was just recently in the paper from May the 5th, the city of Boyd actually just passed an ordinance prohibiting mining activities within their city limits. Just FYI.
Sure thing. And I guess I'd say, again, nothing's being dug. We're not constructing anything. The receivers are placed on the side of the road in yards typically within the city right of way. And the vibrators come in for a few days and they're gone. In fact, the vibrators will probably be here just for one day in town.
So what happens if
Maybe
you
two.
discover
Uh,
mother lode? Everybody
Bedrock will be
that
happy.
you paid $25 to, do they get a share of
They
that?
don't get filthy rich. I'm sorry. No, we're working right now through some mineral research to see who has minerals in town. So there might be some small lots that actually do have minerals. We're not in the leasing business. We're not going to come lease your minerals and put an oil and gas well in your front yard or backyard or in your neighbor's yard. But Bedrock Energy is looking to be productive in the area. You've all seen natural gas prices. It's ridiculous, which is a good thing for E&P companies. And they're just trying to find a better, more efficient way to get to it. So natural gas hasn't seen prices like this in a long time. So we're probably going to see some more activity.
No, I'm not opposed to that. We're 4.7 square miles. Is there no way to go outside of city limits to do this?
There is, and the production that is the end game will more than likely be, not more than likely, that'll be around town. But to image the entire area, we're shooting 7 square miles. The city of Rome is just a small portion of that. Mm-hmm. And so to get a full collective picture, we want as many pieces of that puzzle as we can to put it all together. So if you take out City of Rome, the City of Rome denies us, we would have a big hole in the data where Bedrock was trying to look. And that can hurt the data on the outside of town where that could help production for Bedrock and mineral owners in the area. Good questions. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'll have to tell you that I was a geotechnician
There you go.
back when. So,
You know more than I do.
no, that's not true. Technology, I'm sure, has changed greatly since those days. I guess, my concern, and I understand that you are a contract person to help the exploring company. And so you really just give them information to help them decide where they want to invest their money in order to do exploration. So I do understand what your role is in this. But my questions about what you are doing is, I happen to be one of those that got the contract.
There you go.
And so, but not only are you talking here to people about what the city owns, actually, it affects almost everybody because this whole community over here is in that seven square mile radius
That's right.
area. So it affects all the citizens that are here in some capacity. So my questions are generally about that. It says here in this agreement, item number 4, the amount paid to the grantor as provided herein shall constitute settlement in full for all damages, if any, that may result in grantor's properties as a result of normal operations. The payment for you to come on my property and put that on there is $25. And so if there's not any damage, well, okay. But if there is damage, you're pretty much saying that if it's minor damage, at $25 is the settlement. If it's above that, as far as the damage is concerned, your description is above and beyond normal wear. Now, what in the heck is that? And that is just about as vague as I can imagine. And of course, you know that my biggest concern is that those of us that live in this area know that there is a shelf that's barely under the ground of rock. We can tell that by the way the water runs, the way it drains, the amount of water that it rains. And of course, that runs under our houses. So, what would happen if you do your vibration, you've got a rock that's under somebody's foundation, it moves just enough to cause foundation damage, for example. Then it falls, according to this contract, it would fall on the property owner to prove that you had done that. Can you imagine the expense that would be for me to have to try to prove that it was your survey that caused that damage? So I'm not saying those things would happen.
Sure.
I understand statistically that doesn't happen often, but that's one of my concerns here. Also, I appreciated the information that you put about, I think it was Arlington, where you really worked to see how that affected the infrastructure. And like many places, a lot of the infrastructure where some of these lots are for the city is the older part of town, and there's work that needs to be done in that infrastructure. So that is a concern, I think, that we would be a little bit leery of.
Sure.
So you've got to have had things that went wrong. You must have had.
No, we're perfect.
So what are those risks? What have you learned about what are the riskier things that could be detrimental to the city property as well as the rest of our community?
Thank you. All good questions. I'm going to go back to the very first one.
There was
I
only
think
about
that
20
was,
there.
so I'm going to do my best to remember them.
Okay.
The first one about the permit form, you brought up item number 4 in the permit form, which was damages and normal wear and tear. Admittedly, these permits go out and they're very vague on purpose. So in just the tiny little 7 square mile job, we sent out about 1,000 permits. We don't know going into it what everybody's property looks like, how big, we know how big it is, but we don't know the sensitive nature of each person's individual property. They have to be vague on purpose. And then as we start the permit process, Jeff does a really good job of identifying, your concern and the owner outside of town who has 300 acres concern. So the permit is geared to try to attempt to help both. The guy outside of town or the lady outside of town that has 300 acres, item number 4 is going to apply to them a lot more because we're going to drive through their open pasture. And these trucks are big, they're loud, they're noisy, they're going to leave tire tracks in the grass. That's normal wear and tear. If we bump into a fence, jumping forward to your last question, the drivers aren't perfect. If they back up into a fence, that happens. We repair the fence. We make sure that gets replaced. Minor things like that, they do happen. Now, when we're in town, it's a completely different ballgame. If item number 4 on normal wear and tear, there is no normal wear and tear. We're putting a receiver box in your front yard. The stake is about this big, sitting next to the street, hopefully within the city's right of way. The vibrators are shaking on the street, and if we've done our job correctly, you have no wear and tear at all.
I want to add, those boxes are placed down, guy just carrying the box out by foot, so there's no driving on your property in residential lots. It's just foot traffic.
So let me just, what I think you just said.
Mhm.
So there's going to be someone to come and meet with us. And so these particular issues that are unique to that particular contract, if you will, that's when there's some negotiation. There
Sure.
can be some negotiation at that point.
Yes.
Okay.
And the $25 an acre, the project itself is paying $10 an acre for the landowner. So if you have 300 acres outside of town, that's a
Sure.
better payment, of course.
Sure.
Most people in town have less than an acre, so they wouldn't even get $10 if we were paying them $10 an acre. So it's standard for us to just offer a flat fee. I mean, I know it's not much, go buy some McDonald's, but it's instead of sending you a permit for absolutely nothing, they put a small flat fee on it.
Well, once again, I'll just say my concern is, yes, you're here specifically to talk about city-owned property, but it is affecting the whole of our community. And I wanted to hear those words that you were going to come out and negotiate with the individuals so that they have a voice and they truly understand what you're going to do. I understand 1,000 people is different properties is a lot, but at the same time, I think it's important that all of our citizens know they have the right to negotiate with you.
It is. The city permit is very valuable in the use of the streets for the vibrators. So let me clarify a couple things about the receivers. If you signed your permit, no questions asked, send it back to Jeff. He turns it in to me. We update our system. The city didn't give us permission to put a receiver on your front yard. You did. And so if we can come out and talk to you about a placement in your front yard for this, which is if the city owns the street and 4 feet past the street, typically for right-of-way utilities or what have you, that would be the city-owned property. But if you signed your permit, we could put it beyond that 4 feet, ideally. If we get the city's permission, then we're using their right-of-ways, and those receivers could go in places where we didn't get a signed permit from someone in the city. Now, we still want to work with them. We're going to put flyers out, door hangers for every door we're going by, even if you don't have a receiver in front of you. We just want everybody in town to know what's coming. We'll probably put those out about a week before. It's going to have Jeff's direct phone number on there so you can call and get mad at them when they drive down your street and they're loud and noisy. But other than that, yes, one more question about the city of Arlington.
Yeah, and she also mentioned saying the shell formation up underneath, shaking it.
Yeah. So I can email this to the mayor and council in addition to the packet you guys received. In that same study that these guys did for the city of Arlington on that clay pipe, they monitored very closely this peak particle velocity stuff that they're talking about, and they gave some real world examples of the amount of impact everyday things like a truck driving down the highway or a train going through the middle of town has on the actual vibration of the city. That train going through the middle of town has 3, 4, 5, 6 times the amount of impact and vibration moving through the surface that these vibrators are going to have going down the street. A semi going down the highway has more vibrations than these vibrators are going down the street. And we have some real life examples of that we can provide you guys.
Well, I hope you find a lot of big anomalies around here.
We're hoping for good things in the future for sure. So it's good for Dawson.
Thank you for answering so many questions.
You bet. Good
I
question.
just felt like I needed to be
You
reassured.
bet. We understand, it's new and not something you see every day. I don't think this area has been, have y'all had seismic in town before?
I've had some landowners here pretty local.
Okay.
It's been-
Sure, it's been 12, 15 years maybe.
Okay. Talk in your mic, Kathy. No, Can you hear me now? Okay, yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? No, I'm in the same line of path that I think she is here. I just was a little bit concerned when
You
I
bet.
heard that, so just want to make sure that we're safe and covered if
bet.
anything comes up.
It's easy for us to say we do it all day, every day. I get it. The entire city of Midland, where I used to live, has been shot. I had lived in 2 different homes in Midland, and they were right outside my front door. And I can personally say we didn't have any issues. So we've shot all of Carlsbad, all of Midland, big parts of DFW. We've been on DFW airport runways doing this. So it's. Yep. And that was 10, 15 years ago when natural gas prices were more like what we're seeing today. So that's why it's seeing some uptick. I forgot to mention one more thing. The front page has a picture of the area we were originally shooting. In that front page picture, if you look at it real quick, there's a red line going north-south across the right side of that picture. That was our project boundary. Just a couple days ago, we found out from our client that we're going to be extending that about 1.5 miles east. There you go. So it's instead of looks like everything west of the tracks, we're actually going to be including pretty much the entire city of Rome, if at all possible.
Last thing, also time frame, we're shooting for, time frame, we're shooting for July. It may run into August, but we're going to try to hustle this job up to have it done by end of July, but it may go into August. And it'll only be about, from the time we set the first receivers down, time we pick them up, weather permitting, probably looking at less than 7 days. So it'll be fast and quick.
Thank y'all for having us. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
So I've got a few questions, just to go off that last thing that you're talking about on the map there. So we can put this into words, and Cynthia, you could probably help us out. So we're looking at Ellis, Old Town, and Chisholm and Crown Point.
Crown Point. I don't, I guess you are going down to Chisholm because yeah.
Right.
So what's not on there's, Crown Point, and if it's going east, how much more?
About 1.5 miles
A
east
mile.
of that red line.
So
Okay.
that'll be all of.
So
Crown
most of all of Rome minus Bywell, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get you some revised maps first thing tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. So I got a few other questions, and I'll just go one and one. So you're not mining anything. You're just looking to see what's down there, right?
That's right.
All right. Perfect. And Elaine already kind of mentioned this. So if y'all are on city property and somehow city property is damaged, y'all compensate for the contract that
Yes.
we work
That would
out.
be absolutely outside of normal wear and tear. So
And is that going to be a similar contract as what you're doing with the homeowners, with the city? It's about the same thing?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The city actually owns 9 different
Mhm.
specific tracks that you would be getting the same, so you guys have, 9+ acres
Yes.
on there? So-
There's 9, it's in your packet. There's 9 properties that are listed, but keep in mind, they're also talking about these and the right of ways
To use city streets and right
of the city streets as well.
So we'll need
Right.
to doctor up a more specific permit. That one works, as a private landowner, basically, even though it's the city.
Okay.
But for use of the city streets, we'll definitely want to get something more detailed for you guys.
All right. And I think you've already mentioned this as well. So the city we're only giving you permission to do city part. You still have to get homeowner even if we approve this, right? Perfect. And
Josh, can I address that real
yeah.
quick? So that city right of way is real important to us because we're not going to get 500 different owners permission inside the city of Rome. So if the city does give us permission, that receiver placement would be next to the city if the city has 2 to 4 feet of right of way outside of the city.
Okay. And the last question, I know it's going to sound silly, but somebody's going to ask this. How long is the equipment going to be on the property? And is somebody going to have to mow or maintain around that equipment?
When we lay out, if we don't get any bad weather, layout will take a day. The vibrators should be through in the next few days, and they would only take 1 day, maybe 2. If we started in the afternoon and only got about half the town done, we might come back the next morning and get the other half done. But no more than 2 days is what we're expecting. And then the vibrators have to roll off and basically finish the job. The whole 7 square miles will be recording at the same time. So even though we're shooting vibrator points inside the city, we're actually still recording points 4.5 miles away, and vice versa. So when we're 4.5 miles away with the vibrators, the receivers that are still sitting here in town are still recording.
So about a week then?
About a week is
About a
what we're
week-ish.
expecting, of course.
So if somebody does decide to mow around your equipment and accidentally damage it, that's the homeowner's responsibility to?
That's on us.
Yeah,
That's on y'all.
That's on us.
Okay.
There's a lot of overhead and seismic. We used to have cables connecting all these little receiver boxes. New technology is wireless nowadays, and so very minimal cable. I think there's a small cable connecting the battery box to the receiver. But if somebody needs to mow, they can call that number that's going to be on the flyer. We'll have somebody out there within hopefully a matter of minutes. We can pick it up, let them do their thing, put it back down. Doesn't hurt our shoot, doesn't hurt them. Good question.
So let me just clarify. These trucks are just going to be on the road. They're not going to be, because most of the houses are residential small lots, they're just going to be on the road.
Right.
And those devices are just going to be right off the road in the right of way.
That's right. I didn't see any sidewalks driving around town today, not really, right?
Crown
Okay.
Point has them.
Sometimes in cities, if you have the space between the city and the sidewalk, typically that's city right away. So that's a perfect spot for receivers. But if there's no sidewalk, typically the city actually has a few feet beyond the road, just for typical public works maintenance.
And you say in the right of way, but if the homeowner signs up, they can go further up in the yard, right?
Yes.
We could, but we don't need to.
But you
Yeah.
wouldn't. Okay.
Moving even if that predetermined location was right at their doorstep, it doesn't hurt us any to move it 20 feet to the edge of the road. It's no problem.
Typically, they're just within a couple of feet from the curb or from the road, just right there, real close to it.
So the probability of you having to go and get homeowners permission is going to be slim out of this whole project, or, if we give you approval, correct? Because you have the right of way. You can put it right on the side of the road. You don't need the homeowner's permission.
Exactly. The city permit is very, very valuable for us. But we still want to send out permits in those specific areas, in case there might be 2 or 3 streets out here that would be our perfect world scenario to place this, line of receivers. But for whatever reason, the city's going to do construction that week. You just can't be in there, Dawson. Okay, that's fine. If there's a couple landowners that would let us put a receiver somewhere else in their yard that's outside of the construction area, that's where a lanes permit becomes valuable for the whopping total of $25.
Do you have a question, Mr. Easton? Oh, jeez.
Thank you very much. What it sounds like is if the council gives them right of way in addition to city property, then that means they don't have to ask any homeowner for permission at all. Because I know my property goes all the way to the street, but yet the right of way also comes to my front porch. So they could go anywhere and they wouldn't have to ask anyone. So you're essentially, if you give them right of way permission, they don't have to ask. If you just say it's the city property and that's what you give them permission to, then they must ask.
Thank you. Go.
How big are these machines? I've seen them on there, but how much do they weigh? Because I'm concerned about our roads.
Outside of town, we're going to use a set of 3 vibrators that weigh 60,000 pounds. Huge. Yes, they're huge, loud, noisy pieces of machinery. We put tires on them that are about, what do you say, Jeff? That wide. So the pounds per square inch actually replicate something similar to an F-350.
More or less. 2.5 ton big right
We'll use one big one instead of 3, just to limit the vibration that's going down. Yes, literally speaking, yes. But the pressure that you're putting on the ground is dispersed because of these massive tires that we put on them. it's similar to driving, like we said, a pickup down the road. Yeah. Yep. 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 100%. If we're not going to have that problem, if the driver who's not perfect makes a turn on a road where, I'm not going to promise perfection, right? But if we're staying Center Street, the grounds per square inch, trying not to get scientific on you, but the grounds per square inch, pounds per square inch are very similar to something you see on these streets all the time. And I'll double back on that train running through the middle of town. I can't imagine what that thing weighs, but I know based off of actual studies that a lot smarter people than I have done, that thing's putting a whole lot more pressure and vibrations coming off the tracks than our vibrators are going to do driving down the streets. And again, we've done it a lot. We've done a lot of towns with very, very, very minimal disturbance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. If we get on the edge of a light road, is it possible? Yes. I'm not going to claim perfection for you, but you bet. And that would fall outside of the lane's normal wear and tear that we talked about. So if something happens, that we need to address, we're going to address it. I'll point to the very first slide. Dawson's been in business 70 years. We wouldn't be around that long if. Oh yeah, no, I get it. I'm just saying if we. Yep. I know it sounds. I wasn't gonna lie to you. So it sounds great. It sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but it really does disperse the weight.
Yeah, but you got to keep in mind that the weight dispersal on those tires on pounds per square inch, similar to a pickup truck. The pounds per square inch on those big wide tires are similar to a pickup truck. So even though they are heavy, the weight disbursement over that big area, like a pickup truck going down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
How would this affect someone, say, like with a pacemaker, if you're right there by their house? Because we do have people in town that have the implanted pacemakers, and it seems, right, the ground penetrating, that vibrations and stuff could affect people's health if they already have health issues.
I've been doing it 12 years. He's been doing it longer than I have. I haven't heard that question before. Have you, Jeff? All I can say is I don't know specifically, but I know that going through the amount of towns that we've gone through in the last 20, 30 years, if an issue like that had come up, surely we would have heard about it. I don't, the vibrations coming off of those machines, if you're home today, they're rolling through, you're going to hear them. And it's going to feel like you're feeling them, but if you stand next to a loudspeaker at a concert, you feel that thing, vibrating through you, just because it's sound waves going through the air. That doesn't mean it's the same amount of sound waves and energy going into the ground. So I'm not a pacemaker expert, but we have never had an issue. I can say that for a fact that we know of. That's a very interesting question. Not that I know of.
I want to add another analogy. A trash truck going down the road creates more energy vibration than these fiber-sized trucks do.
Yep, that's a fair statement.
So I think the question that some of us are coming up with now then, and maybe Cynthia, you can help us out. If they're going on the right of way, they really don't have to go to any homeowner. You're just sending those out as courtesies?
It is kind of a courtesy. If Elaine had signed that permit, sent us back, no questions, we're going to pay that permit. So if any owner has a permit from Dawson Geophysical, they're going to get paid the $25, not for wear and tear like an item 4, but yeah, just like you said, Josh, as a courtesy.
So it's a courtesy. So if they don't sign up, they're not going to get the $25.
Correct.
So
yeah,
if we approve this, they might as well sign up to get some sort of money because you're going to do it whether they want it or not.
Sounds good to me.
Well, let me, to clarify though, I mean, what I heard you say, generally that's the case, I understand. But what I heard you say is there still may be some properties, and you've already sent out these notices, but there still may be some properties that you do want it on that
You bet.
private property.
You bet. So if like I gave the example of a construction project that happens to be going on while we're shooting, and the city gave us permission to use that, but it just so happened that it's impassable that week. If we can actually utilize a side yard for someone that signed a permit, okay, let's coordinate with that specific owner and use that side yard for a receiver placement. We are not going to drive a 60,000 pound vibrator through anybody's front yard. Promise.
Well, you said, but the question is with the receivers. The only people that will get that 25 is if you put that on their property. But if we give you permission, you're going to set it on the right of way and you're just going to go through town.
Fair question. If you sign that permit and send it back to us and we don't utilize that spot, we might not even realize it because this is going to happen so quick, we're going to pay for the permit. If you sign a permit, send it back to us and you're inside the city of Rome, we're going to pay for the permit.
So every person in the city of Rome will get a permit?
No, we're only sending permits to the predetermined locations right now. But permitting is always fluid and, you get no permissions in certain areas and therefore, okay, we need to double our efforts around that area. And so we might send out a few more permits. I'll check with our client, but it might not be an issue at all to send a permit to every person in the city of Rome.
I got one other question besides that. So when y'all get the results, are y'all going to share the results with the city? That way we can keep it for our records for any future use?
Typically, the answer is no there. I can check with Bedrock on that. And it's not because it's some big secret, but the amount of money there, well, I mean, they have competitors and it's a proprietary shoot. So, it's their data, but if I went to go look at the data, Josh, I'm no geoscience like Elaine is. I don't know what I'm looking at. So you have to have a trained geophysicist to be able to interpret that stuff and look at it. So I don't know what benefit it would be to the city, but no, we typically don't share the data.
So Cynthia, what are you looking for? Just a motion to?
Yeah, a motion to approve their request to give them permission to go onto our city property, the 9 properties, and then to go on our right-of-ways throughout the city.
You bet, absolutely. We're here for y'all.
Sorry, this lady in the back, she had her hand up for a long time.
I'm actually one of the ones that have received the permit, and so I know that they will want to do my property. The only thing that bothers me about it is it's my property, and to be able to see, it's almost like going into my bank account, because basically it is a bank account. If there's stuff underneath there that's gold or something that's of value, I'll never know. I won't get that information. So to me, I don't feel like I should allow them to see my bank account, if that makes sense. It bothers me that they are able to come through and see what I have underneath my house. And I understand that they're doing it because somebody wants to see it, but they want to see it for a reason. So they're going to want to see it to make money off of it. So to me, I would not want it done to my property.
Thank you, Mrs. Fitch. Did you have a question, Mrs. Majors?
2 acres, sorry.
So take Bedrock, for example, our client, they have oil and gas leases all around Rome already. I don't think they have, does anybody in here have an oil and gas lease with Bedrock by any chance? Okay. So in order for Bedrock to do anything with your minerals, if you own the minerals under your 2 acres, and I don't know if you do or not, maybe you do, but for Bedrock to do anything with those 2 acres, they would have to have an oil and gas lease with you to do that. Now, what is the likelihood of them coming to you to lease your 2 acres specifically? Not very, to be honest, because they've got larger leases outside of town, in place already, where they've got plans for production already, and they're trying to lease up, more east of town, and they're trying to expand their area, and that's the reason for doing this shoot. So I definitely understand the perception of, I'm giving them a free look, and I've got quotes in the air on that. But at the same time, they can't do anything with it unless they have an agreement with you, if that makes sense. If you own the mineral rights, that's right. And I don't know, but you might just own surface rights. The minerals might have been severed 40 years ago. So the mineral owner at the time of this, within the city of Rome, before it all got divided up, might have belonged to Joe Blow, and Joe Blow severed the surface and sold the surface rights to Betty Sue, and Betty Sue divided it, and here we are with the town of Rome. And so the mineral rights belong to someone else. And I do know that I can say for a fact, not every owner within the city of Rome owns their minerals. It's, this stuff in Texas gets broken up a long time ago all the time. Now, some people still do, and that's a great thing. My parents in Midland, Texas have an oil and gas lease on their 1/5 acre. They get a $80 royalty check every 6 months, but they don't have an oil and gas well sitting in their backyard. The oil and gas well is on the edge of town, and their acreage is pooled or collected with a bunch of other people's acreage, and that well is drilling into a large reservoir that spans across the entire city and even outside the city, if that makes sense. So they're not just looking and getting a quick look on your specific property. I hope that answered your question.
But to be clear, the action that council would take tonight, if you are going to take action, you are not taking any action that would, their request to a private property owner is between them and that private property owner. So
Right.
the only way it may help is if you allow it on the right of way, so maybe they wouldn't have to go on their property, but they still would have to deal with the private property owner.
Right,
One
but
more-
again, we're just looking. If any digging was to happen in the future, it's a whole different contract with somebody else.
Absolutely. If the city of Rome owns some minerals, I don't know if you guys do, but if the city of Rome owns minerals, that's a completely separate contract. This is just a temporary seismic permit. This doesn't give us any rights to any minerals that anybody in town may own. It gives us rights to nothing other than to shoot a seismic permit.
Will you take one more question, please?
I will, absolutely. That's why we're here.
Okay. My neighbor got a letter, but I did not. But just question. Can we see who got letters sent out? And is there a way to see? Okay.
Can I explain? Cynthia, if you go back to show the map, I can explain who got letters and who did not. Probably can. See here. Okay, there we go. High tech, sorry. Don't know if you can see it. These blue dots spaced out about every 88 feet, give or take, run basically east-west. Now, these city lots, as these recording device locations, every blue dot is where one of those shoebox-sized recorders need to sit on the ground. As they go through the neighborhoods, the only people that receive permits are the ones where these dots actually sit on their property. So if they're in between, and we don't have what we call receiver line on their property, they did not get a permit. So that answers the questions why everybody did not get one. Only the ones that we needed some activity, receiver on them, got the permit.
That line he pointed to is kind of coming in. You can see the houses are close to the street, and the dots are kind of at the end of the backyard. So if we didn't have to move those receiver points to the street, and they could stay right there, and we could put it at the edge of the fence without hurting anybody or being in anybody's way, that might be a better thing just for the quality of the imaging. So your neighbor's permit might be valuable.
And you explained the blue dots, and I know you explained the red ones. What were the red dots for?
The red dots are if we were in a perfect world and the city of Rome didn't exist, and this was just a big open field, those red dots would be where the vibrators would drive, lower, their pad and do the vibrating thing. And as you can see red dots on top of people's houses, but we're going to coordinate with the city public works and 811 and make sure we put those in safe spots. And you'll do that same side of stuff outside of town. So the school just south of town owns that big area over here. And so this is a prime spot for us because we're not going to hurt anything other than driving over grass. Now, there might be a pipeline, and there probably is, underground, maybe some kind of high-pressure natural gas pipeline, for all I know, running this way. So that point right there is going to get moved 100 feet to the east just to offset that pipeline. And that's why we call 811, even though we're not digging anything. We're going to shake with a little more velocity outside of town because it's a big, wide open area, but we're still going to offset around sensitive areas and hazards and pipelines and water wells, oil and gas wells, etc.
Yes, Mr. Knight.
Thank you. I just want to chime in on what I think I know about what they're doing. They're basically, most of the mineral rights underneath Rome are owned by somebody. Bedrock, who knows? This Bedrock wants to get a picture of what's under us. If they find a big deposit of something they want to go get underneath Rome, they're going to go off the side of Rome and they're going to drill over to it. They're not going to go straight down to it. You do directional drilling, right? So is that kind of what this whole thing's about? They want to find out if there's a big deposit under Rome that they can go get it, make money on. Define it better. And we're talking how far down under the ground? 30 feet? 9,000 feet, okay. And the earth's not going to cave in when you take all that stuff out of there. For sure. Because that's what would worry every homeowner in here. But that's basically what we're looking at is you want to get a picture of what's under us so that the guy wanting to make the money on it can go after it from 3 miles away and drill diagonally. Right. Okay, thank you.
Well said.
But that vertical drilling is fracking, correct?
Yes, it is.
Fracking inside the city limits.
Yeah.
I know, but it would get there. He's already saying that there's a deposit. So
in the whole, there's oil and gas all over North Texas. So it's there, and people are drilling into it all the time. Y'all have oil and gas wells on the north edge of town already from BKV. So it's already there. And Bedrock has already done some stuff in the area, and they're absolutely looking to do some more.
Ladies.
But I mean, again, it's a whole nother story. Just looking doesn't seem to hurt. It seems like a few dollars. If we decide to let somebody frack in the future, that's a whole nother ballgame. So right now we're just looking at approving to look and see what's down there.
Yes, and I very specifically don't work for Bedrock as a landman oil and gas leasing agent. So those would be very good questions for them someday in the future. If the city of Rome owns the minerals that needed to be leased before they did anything.
So you have data showing that this equipment is equivalent to an F-350.
Yes.
Can we get a copy of that so we can see?
Yep.
I mean, you could sit there and say it's equivalent to, a little Honda Civic, and
I sure could.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know that.
Yeah.
And
yes, we have some sheets on that. We can send it. And I'll send some of the PPV stuff or my train examples.
So does that mean you would rather wait to see that information before you make a decision?
That would be ideal. I mean,
is this something that we can postpone to the next meeting and have by the 9th?
We're at your guys' discretion.
I mean, if that would make y'all feel comfortable,
I'm not pushing you to make a decision.
I mean,
so you said this isn't going to be until June, July anyway, so we got a little bit of time.
Well, and with July, I mean, with these heavy equipment, obviously it's hot.
Right.
asphalt gets softer
Mhm.
with the heat and the sun, correct?
Yes, it does. And that's a
That's my thing, is you said you're doing it in July, in the middle of the summer, with these big machines on asphalt that gets soft with heat. That's my concern.
Yep. So we shoot seismic 365 days a year, and clients have, different schedules. They might have a drilling schedule lined up for the next, 4 months, and they either have to shoot this now and process the data. Once we collect the data, it takes another, this shoot won't take very long, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to process. But if you shoot a 40, 50, 100, we shoot 500 square mile shoots, those can take 6 to 9 months to process. So you have to shoot it by, let's say, March. You have the data processed and ready by December to hopefully be drilling and doing some things in the area sometime that following year. So it's definitely a long process.
There's been quite a few questions about the road, but so having also been in the right-of-way business at one point, don't ask me. It was just like, what new job can you do, Elaine? Well, anyway, so if you cause damage to our roads, you are going to fix them. Is that correct?
That is correct. If we
So-
drive down your street,
We
And-
might have some places we want you to drive.
spoken like a true
Just
landowner.
saying.
When we
Well, I mean, we're negotiating here.
when we brush clear in West Texas, you can tell who hunts on their ranches, because if we're doing some clearing, they might tell you, hey, can you clear right down here for a good deer run? Sure.
Well, that is true, and we have a list of roads that we could stand that. But I just wanted to be clear, because I've done that kind of work before. I knew that you would take care of those damages, but not
Yes.
everybody has walked that walk. And so I just wanted everybody to hear that any damage that you guys do, talking city, those right of ways,
That's
the
right.
roads that you're on, anything that you get from the city, if there's damages, you're responsible for them.
That's right. These are great, and it's not like we're going to be out here for 3 months and there's a damage on, the 15th, but we're still out there 2 months later. Was it us? Was it not us? No, we're going to be rolling through in a day or two with
And
the vibrator.
so-
So if you see something, right after we leave, and that's right where we drove, all these trucks have GPS coordinates on them, so we can see exactly where they went at all times.
Well, and of course, another thing that Ms. Mai talked about was, it rains, there is a weakness from where you have been, and the next thing we get 16 inches of rain. Oh, wait, and then it washes that out, and you can tell clearly it's where you have been with your heavy equipment. There's got to be a recourse. But I also know that the city staff then is going to negotiate with you for the terms of that. And that's one reason I think that we want to have some discussion here. We want to be sure that those terms, especially related to damages, need to be part of our agreement with you.
My project manager just texted me. I felt my phone going off a few times, so I figured he's listening in. He reminded me that when we shake outside of the city limits, this is a small shoot, so we're going to use the same tires on all these vibrators for the entire shoot probably. But on a big shoot, we would like to use the deeper tread outside of towns, out in the pasture and ranches, just for better traction. Inside the city, we have what's called flotation tires. So the tread on these things is just like your city tire on your car. And like Jeff said, the weight disbursement, it looks intimidating. But I'll double back on the ground pressure that's put on these roads is very similar. We're going to get you the sheets to back that up of traffic that's already going down the road.
And also, can we get a schedule of where these trucks are going, so citizens can go out after they know? So like, I've been at work all day, and I know that it went on my street. When I get home, I can go make a visual
You
of the
bet.
road, make sure that
You bet. Starting with the flyer that we'll put out 1 week before we get here. And it'll say, we're going to be here in about a week. And then maybe we can coordinate with you, Cynthia. And, the day we know, we won't know until we get closer to it, just based on permitting schedules. But when we're a few weeks out, we're going to know the day that the vibrators will be here. So we can post on Facebook and post on the city website on whatever it is, July 20th and 21st, expect vibrators in the city town of Rome. Check your door for a door hanger with contact information for Jeff C. at Dawson's Physical.
So Cynthia, do you need a motion to table, or are we just tabling it based on information?
And we're
As long as
fine,
we're all
guys.
in agreement.
Y'all do what you need to do.
Sorry. Are you guys going to table it then?
Need a
Yeah.
motion to table.
Yeah, go ahead and get a motion.
I motion to table this to the next meeting based on information from the company.
I second that.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry we took so long. Y'all had great questions. Good
Thank
stuff.
you, everybody. See if you would like to add is, do not hesitate to give my phone number out or post it.
I have.
or post it on the Facebook side as
I have.
well. You can put my email, but my phone number is open
Oh,
to
okay.
anybody who wants to
Okay.
call.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, thank you. All right. Let's move along. Discussion and any necessary action regarding certificate of appreciation for outgoing Public Works Director. This is Josh McCabe. Going to take care of this one.
Thank you. For those that don't know, our Public Works Director has submitted his resignation. He will be leaving employment, I believe, the end of this month, effective, correct? So we would like to, as a council, even though he's not here, he'll get it, present a certificate of appreciation presented to Sean Dinsmore for his dedicated service to the Public Works Director from 2020 to 2022. And I'd like to read a little bit of an excerpt on some of his duties that he accomplished while he's here. Sean has been an integral part of our leadership team and will be difficult to replace. In a post-COVID era, it is difficult to retain and attract professional and quality staff, especially given that every employee in the city of Rome is paid well below 50% of the market. So replacing someone with his knowledge and experience will be difficult. He understood council's vision and lent his expertise, including prioritizing the use of our well water to reduce our cost of purchasing surface water, addressing the continual stream of TCEQ violations with strategic solutions amid the longstanding neglect of our wastewater system that the council has been addressing over the past 5 years. This includes the water wastewater master plans and subsequent impact fees, long-term water source, water wastewater rate study, thoroughfare master plan, and the subsequent approval of a revenue bond to begin funding identified capital improvement projects. In response to council's vision to maximize professional best practices, he worked with city management to update policies to current day best practices and leverage county resources to extend our limited street maintenance resources to maintain, repair our streets, including Bywell, Crown Point, and Ellis. So thank you, Sean Dinsmore, for your dedication to the city for the last couple of years, and we wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors.
Does that need any necessary action? Does that need any unnecessary action?
I think it'd be nice
That's what
to,
it says in the agenda.
yes, I think it would be good to,
I motion to approve the certificate of appreciation for Public Works Director.
I second.
And all in favor? Discussion and any, this is item H. Discussion, any necessary action regarding adjusting water bill as a result of vandalism. This is the city administrator.
thank you, Mayor. We were approached by a citizen who has asked us to adjust the water bill as a result of vandalism. And of course, we don't have that discretion to do so. We do have an internal leak adjustment policy, but this does not, it does not allow for this sort of eventuality. So I'm bringing this to you because I don't have the authority to do it. Now, if you want to allow staff that discretion, I mean, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. So it's up to you guys on that.
Do you have does this person have a police report and photos of the damage that the vandalism caused?
A police report, yes.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking, we've got most everyone's complaining about their water bill right now, and I can see this as opening a whole can of worms, but perhaps if the council could get a copy of the police report and the photos of the vandalism.
I don't know that there's photos, but there's a police report. But yes, I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't disagree
What's
with
best
that.
practice amongst other cities when it comes to something like this?
What about their insurance? Their own homeowners insurance?
Again, that's what the leak adjustment policy is for. It's very specific. So if there's something outside of that, I mean, yes, is it insurance? Is it, it's other things outside of that for the city to take action on that? I wouldn't say is common.
I mean, that'd be similar to weather tearing my DirecTV dish, and I complained to the city because your wind destroyed it or something like that. I mean, we can't help vandalism, right? Everybody's got to deal with it.
Yeah.
They break into the trucks, but we can't have the city do it because we're on the street or something like that. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think we're open. Like I said, we're open to can of worms for everybody to start, finding ways to try to make a claim and get the city to, pay for it.
Any other comments? Do we need a motion for this?
I think it would be good to be on record that you denied it, so we have it on record, and somebody 5 years into the future brings it and they see that the council had taken action on it.
All right, motion?
I motion to deny the action.
Okay. A second?
I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Discussion and any necessary action regarding budget amendments. This is the city administrator.
Mayor and council, these are budget amendments that we do during the year. As a reminder, when we are doing the budget for a year, we're looking at historical trends and we're looking at future trends. So most of these are just departments trying to adjust their budget to make adjustments for what has happened that maybe they weren't able to anticipate. It doesn't raise the bottom line of the budget. Now, however, there are some that do, and I would like to explain those because council has already authorized that. So the ones that are in regards to the salary, wages, and contract labor, those are as a result of what we were calling the city secretary transition plan. So when we lost a city secretary, we were advertising for that same level of experience, and we did not receive any applicants that met that. And so looking at the staff, I came back with a plan to reorganize staff, and we promoted from within, reduced that salary, and then we also hired an accounting person. So we did some adjustments there. And part of that was we were behind in bank reconciliation. And so part of that was for the CPA to help get us up to date on those bank recs and to train the incoming accounting person on those bank recs. So that is what you see here is, and I'm, as I told you guys before, trying to keep that so it doesn't raise the bottom line. So, and it may still not, it depends on how things go. But at this point, that's what those adjustments are.
What about the other, what about the others, the accounting fees for 1,000?
Say that again?
Down here?
Because on the
accounting fees for 1,000?
Yes, the accounting fee for 1,000, because when we did the budget last year, the accountants raised their rate after we did the budget. So we budgeted 13, and then they raised their rate to 14.
What about the, for the police, the insurance property liability? Is that insurance for the property itself? Is that
So we had
car liability?
So we had TML, who does our insurance for our property and our liability, and they came in and did an audit, and that audit resulted in increased fees
Okay.
that were not budgeted.
Okay, I get that, but is it like for car or is it for the, because I'm sure that they have different policies for what they offer to us. I don't think that they would just give us a policy and here's your premium for cars and building and everything. So I'm curious what the increase was as far as whether it was for the cars, whether it was for the property.
Most of it was for the officer involved shooting.
I see. Okay. Do we have any kind of documentation that would substantiate that?
Yes.
That might be beneficial to look at. We've got citizens through the campaign. You know, we've got citizens that are, you know, they want to see some control with the budget and the money, the spending of the money. That's why I am questioning. But I think it would be, you know, beneficial to the council to have substantiating documentation on any of these amendments.
Well, really, this whole budget, like you said, Cynthia, I believe you said this, it's already all been approved. We're just moving things around. So there's nothing really new that we're adding. There's no new money going into this. Is that what I understood? We're just moving what we already have around?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, you have on the property, and you see on the property, they're moving money to be able to cover that, but we have the documentation on that, on the audit that they performed.
And the dues and subscriptions as well. You know, I mean, that's a substantial increase in what was budgeted. You budgeted about $11,000 and you got $7,600 that was the difference on it. So did we add new subscriptions to various organizations or magazines and dues for?
Well, it's subscriptions is a little bit, you know, I'm trying to think if there's a better word, but so some of that was covering clear. I want to say ClearRex, but that's not what it was. Is it ClearRex? What is it? Clear. Okay. And so that is a company that does the background investigations.
It'd be nice to have substantiating documentation, though, so we can justify it publicly instead of just saying, well, we need to move this money, we need to move this money because of this. But, I mean, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is people want to see why we're doing what we do. And I don't think that that's unreasonable. So, anyway. Do you have a question? One question, make it short. One question. Actually, I'll take two questions because Ashley has a question. If someone from the Roam Forward people, if you've got a question, I'll answer one from you because I'm trying to be fair and balanced here.
Okay, on the salary, please tell us on the salary of admin, why are we, for the wages, please explain. I'm not asking for council to ask her, so I'm just going quick. So please go into details so the city administrator can ask this. So on the $8,000 for wages that she is described, so that is on here, please go into detail about that. And for the person that we hired, are they up to date on our bank reconciliation? So is everything that that person has done that we have paid, have they completed everything? So if they handed it over to Shayna and and to Bobby, is everything completed? Everything been done? Are we up to date on everything? So Shayna and Cynthia, please answer that question completely.
Okay.
So
Ashley, you're going to open a can of worms here.
Okay, so as I said, and I will be providing you with information, as I said, the council and the former council member should remember that this plan included switching out salary. So essentially, we were paying, I'll just go right into detail. So we were paying this former city secretary $70,000, and we couldn't find that replacement. She did a lot of work. She wore a lot of hats, and she was certified. And so we didn't have one. And while that was going on, we do a lot of cross training in the office. And so we had already been cross training with Shayna, and so we promoted within. And but some of the things that she didn't have done, and it's not because she wasn't doing her job, it's just there's a lot going on in that office, and we are severely understaffed. There's not one person that's wearing any less than 3 hats, and trying to keep all the balls in the air. So there's priorities that have to be made, and there's day-to-day operations that have to be performed, and so decisions are made, and sometimes things get dropped down on the totem pole. Now, she was making some progress, and I've been working with her over the last year, but there's just so many hours in the day. So yes, we have hired an accountant, not an accountant, but an accounting person who is getting us up to date. She's been trained, but we're not there yet. And yes, the CPA did, but we stopped her so that we could do it internally and save some money. So she didn't complete them, but she got quite a bit done.
Just clarify, you said that you've been working with her for a year. Who have you been working with for a year?
The former city secretary.
Okay, since she left?
While she was here, those were her duties.
Okay, that was back in October.
She was here since 2017.
Yeah, okay, but you've been working with her from October 2021 backwards for a year. Is that what you're trying to say? I was just trying to get some clarity because you said I've been working with her for a year.
I had been working with her since I got here in 2020 to get up to date on the bank recs.
Okay, all right. So then who were you working with for a year? That would have been Shannon?
Former city secretary.
From October 2021 backwards, since October 2020. You've been working with her for a year.
Yes.
Okay. But we're looking at budget for now. And she's been gone since October.
Right. I'm giving you history. I'm giving you context because she asked for it. So I'm really confused at what you're looking for.
I'm confused. I was confused about what you said.
What do you need clarity on?
We're good.
So again, this seems pretty ministerial. This is budget that we've already approved for this year. We're not changing the bottom line of the City of Rome budget, just maybe departmental lines, because you're moving it from one department with excess funds that over budgeted to a department that needs it because of extenuating circumstances, correct?
As I said, and I communicated this to you, not these 3 new people, because they weren't here, but to the prior council, that I'm going to try to keep it in budget, and we'll see how that goes. And right now, I'm right there on the edge.
Right. Okay, I make a motion that we approve the amendments.
You got a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask a question before we actually take the vote? So I think that that's a reasonable request to just have a little bit of documentation, maybe not a little bit, but whatever it takes to show why these numbers and how these numbers were adjusted. We have 3 new members on the council. The rest of us have already been here and done this several times over, especially Josh and I, we've been here the longest, which is not all that long really, but at least we understand how that works. And a budget is a living document. A budget is your best guess at a certain time, and you strive for that. But just like your own household budget, stuff happens. And so maybe what you had planned to spend it on, you don't get to take that vacation this year. Instead, you fix the water leak that's under the house or whatever. And so we had some unplanned things that happened, differences in personnel, differences in insurance, differences in equipment. And so within the budget of each department, there were changes that were made. So it's still the same money, but at the same time, those that are especially new, we can talk a lot about it, but it doesn't mean too much to them yet. When they've got a year behind them in the budgeting effort, they'll know a lot more. And by the time you get the second year, it begins to make some sense. So I'm just saying it's a learning process. So I don't think it's an unreasonable request to show some documentation here to help understand why these changes occurred within the department budgets. So I'm not in favor of accepting this, but I think that their request is very reasonable from an education standpoint.
We can provide more documentation. That's not a problem. It had been asked for in the past.
So we still have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we voting?
Can we motion?
Yeah, just
I
to
guess
get
we
more
don't need
information.
choice. All in favor?
Aye.
So we got 3 in favor. Sorry, we tried.
Did you ask for the names?
Yeah, these 2 right here.
Okay, I didn't hear you ask for the names.
So we're going to give them the documentation,
Okay.
aren't we? Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to be sure.
So Elaine, were you trying to get at that we needed to provide the documentation before we vote?
That would
So
be,
that they
I
can make
think
an
that would
informed
be
decision?
preferable.
I think it's a reasonable request, yeah.
Okay, then would it suffice, Cynthia, to withdraw the motion, bring this back next time based with the information provided? Or do we need, since we already took a vote, do we need to vote to?
I believe you have to withdraw your motion and withdraw your second.
But since it's already been voted, do we need to motion and second again?
The motioner has to withdraw the motion, and the seconder has to withdraw the second.
Then I withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
And then I would like to table this to the next
I
meeting
think we
based
gotta do an
on,
all in favor.
the information that you provide.
Do we not have to do an all in favor since they've withdrawn a motion?
Yes,
No,
you can.
There's not a motion to do anything. We're withdrawing a motion. So there's nothing to vote on. So we'll table this till next time
So we're gonna
and
table.
we'll get some more information.
I'll second that.
All right. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Discussion and any necessary action approving the purchase of 4 police vehicles for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. This is with the police chief. However, there's some additional information in here that says you're waiting to do a contract of some sort with PMB and their funding of one of the vehicles.
Well, so let me take that first. For those that attended the budget workshop on the 21st, you heard the department head's top 3 priorities. And the chief had shared his top priority of 3 new police vehicles. And that is because of the supply chain crisis that we're having, that order, and he previewed that for all of you at that point in time, that you would have to let your will be known as far as this one budget item prior to the vote on the budget, because if we want to get those vehicles in 2023, we have to place that order now. If we wait until October, then those vehicles would not be here until 2024, or whenever. So at the same time, we have been working on a sub-agreement to the developer's agreement with Rolling V for police and fire services. As a part of that agreement, Rolling V has agreed to provide for police 1 full-time police officer along with the uniform and a car and equipment for that car. So about $150,000 worth for police protection for Rolling V. And they've also committed to, will be committing to a full-time firefighter along with his or her gear. So one of that with the police is a car. The agreement for that for PMB will be on the June 9th agenda. If you guys are thinking, well, why are we going to approve buying a car that PMB is going to pay for before we have a deal inked with them, right? So we can, first of all, I think they'll come through with that, but that's going to be, it's 2 weeks away, 4 weeks away at the most. And if they don't, then we can withdraw one of those cars, and we would not be liable for the payment for that car. And the chief has confirmed that with the provider.
I would suggest that we do, it's my feeling we ought to table this, because I have some additional questions about employees being authorized to use city vehicles for their personal use. So I do have a question about that, but I'll get clarification from you during the week.
Well, so just to be clear, and if the council chooses to table it, that's fine, but if we don't place this order by the end of this month, we won't be getting those vehicles until 2024. So, and I mean, that's up to you all.
That almost sounds ominous. Oh, we're going to be dread if we don't.
I might be able to.
We don't want to be stressed into spending money that we don't have to do right now if we don't have to. But I think if we just table everything to,
I might be able to clarify just a little bit. So, like Ms. Northrup said, the supply chains are putting off vehicle sales, right? So we can't get a hold of cars. Now we know because of the money that we're spending on repairs now, we're going to need cars. So what we're doing is we have to commit before the end of this month for cars that would come in next year. If we don't commit, then we won't be able to make another order until possibly this time next year for hopefully cars in 2024. Now, I did provide a packet that explained the process of what I think would be best, because part of my job is to make sure that you guys' money is used reasonably and responsibly. But by spending money now, we save money in the long run by not replacing vehicles. If we do this, the next time we would need to replace vehicles isn't until probably 2026, if not 2027. So it sets us up in a good position to save money over the next several years and puts us in a position to not have to buy vehicles until then. But again, what we're saying is the manufacturer delivery is not, we won't be able to get cars. If we don't give them a PO before the end of May, we just won't be able to order them, and then we will continue with what we have, which is we're not in a good position with the way the cars are now. Yes, Ms. Priest.
So the administrator said that if we ordered the 4 cars and the agreement for some totally unlikely reason with PMB was didn't come through the way we expected it to, that we could cancel that. So what about the other 3 cars? So let's say we make this order, get it in place, And then we look at all of the other things that we need to be looking at, that the mayor has suggested that we look those over and kind of study that. And so then we change our mind. Can we cancel all of the cars or two of the cars? I mean, does it, and knowing that we would be putting off until 2024, and we all know prices never go down, they always go up, and so we would have to budget then for bigger expenses. So my question is, could we cancel more than just one if we have to?
Because of the high demand for vehicles, probably, but there's no guarantee that we wouldn't suffer some sort of financial penalty for doing so.
Is that something you could check on?
We asked today and got clarification today for one. I didn't ask for more than that.
Okay.
But we can't, and I apologize, this is why it was brought up in the budget envisioning. Most people were in this room and it's online. You can see my presentation. The supply chains being the way they are, it's not me wanting to do this. It's them putting us under the gun that we have to do this now, or we'll have to pass until next year, which means next year at this time we would do the same thing with cars that are that much older and that much more in disrepair, and then we need to hopefully for the following year. And with supply chains the way they are, we don't know that would be possible.
And so for the especially for the newer folks here.
Yes, ma'am.
Please explain to us what we have now and what the problem is with that and how much that's costing us. We need to be reminded of that.
So right now we have basically one car per officer. We try to do that, but we had a car crashed, not through any fault of the officer. It was hit in the ice storm a couple months ago. That car went into the shop, was paid for by the other person's insurance. This past week, we had another car hit by another driver. That car went in. So when that happens and you have a car go down and you don't have a replacement vehicle, you have to what's called hot seat the car, which means this officer who just drove it for 12 hours gets out of that car, and the next officer gets in that car and he drives it for 12 hours. Puts a tremendous amount of wear and tear on a vehicle when they are driven back to back like that. You also lose the benefit of ownership where the officers take care of it and they keep it as their own office, and then they maintain it like they would as ownership is versus renting. Does that answer kind of what you're asking? I did have it all spelled out for each individual car if you'd like that.
I remember that.
Okay.
And I had seen
Ms.
some of the
Kuniski?
cars over there too, so I know one's had some bad problems with it from the accident. And then again, the buy well, they're going to buy that vehicle, right? So
That's
Rolling
PMB,
whatever it
PMB
is,
development.
Yeah.
They would be responsible for the complete purchase. And like we said, if they backed out, that one's just gone. That we wouldn't spend a dime, and it wouldn't be our money anyway. We wouldn't be spending any of our tax money.
But we also would have the option then, since that PMB comes through with our agreement, which we're going to see in the next few weeks and get all that executed hopefully and enhance things. If we got into a real tight and they come through, we still have the ability to cancel one.
We would if we chose to do that. What this plan allows us to do, I don't have it all here, but it allows for a pool vehicle, which means if a car's in the shop, we have this older Tahoe with 100-something thousand miles on it that the officer could use in the meantime. When we have reserve officers come in to supplement patrol, they would have that vehicle to use instead of jumping in another officer's car and putting more wear on that car and then taking away the accountability for the officer that's responsible for that vehicle.
So it gives us better coverage.
Much better
for
coverage.
our community by having that vehicle.
And at this time, none of these cars would be take-home. We don't have any take-home vehicles. I have an on-call vehicle because I'm on call 24/7. and I come in periodically for certain things. And then just for the record, I don't know of any command staff member in law enforcement that doesn't take an on-call vehicle home. It's not unusual. It's not, if I didn't, that would be the only one.
But our officers are not going to take this.
No, ma'am,
Those home.
that's not factored into this.
Okay.
At some point, I do remember though, the council had authorized a plan with the police department to replace one vehicle every year. And I don't know that that was followed through, which might have avoided, getting hit with buying 3 vehicles all at the same time. Does anybody on the council know anything about that? There was an agreement at one point that you would buy 1 vehicle a year. It was before DeBoose's time. Can you look at those up can you find that in the minutes? Because I know that there was. I'm not pulling this out of the sky. I do remember that.
Well,
What
I mean,
year
that
was
could have.
I mean, that's not going to help our problem now. I think we need to figure out if we have, if the.
But this is a lot of money. You're talking
part?
4 vehicles, or at least
Yeah.
3 at the on the backs of taxpayers.
No, I understand. Who's paying for that 4th vehicle? I'm sorry.
PMB.
PMB. So PMB, they pay for that vehicle. We have the option to cancel one. So I think that would be an option for us to look at.
Especially.
I'd like to see. Again, I'm meeting with you next Tuesday, and I'll see most of the fleet and what you're working with.
Of course.
So.
Are these 3 vehicles still the lease program, or are we purchasing them?
It's a lease purchase program,
called a
but we will
lease.
own it.
Yeah,
Oh.
but after the 5th and final payment, we retain ownership.
It's 50,000 per year, roughly.
I think with the amount of miles that these vehicles have on them and the unreliability of the vehicles, it's a safety issue for the police department, for the police officers.
Yeah, so coming from the automotive finance industry, I can guarantee that it does take at least a year, if not more, to get these most common vehicles. So couple questions. So we're looking at approximately a year to be able to order this. What is your fit out time for one of these vehicles before we receive it? You got to get it fitted out, then you can finally use it.
So we would place the order now. We would say, yes, we want this many vehicles. Say we would want 4 vehicles. We don't expect them to be delivered from GM to the upfitter until sometime late this year or early next year. And then we would hope they would come in March, April next year.
Okay.
So almost a year from now.
So you order them now.
We commit to them now.
Okay, and can we get a price on that? Now, if they don't come in for a year, do we pay a price of them for next year, or do we pay the price that that you ordered in this year?
We would be locked in at that price.
Okay, do you have a roundabout figure on what this is going to cost us?
Yes, ma'am. It's in the documents.
It's
Why did I
50,000.
miss that? They're 50,000 a vehicle? It seems like I did see that, and I
It's
kinda shook my
50,000
head.
It's 50,000 a year for 5 years
So the total on
Wait a
each
minute,
car-
50,000 a year for 5 years?
for
Yes,
3
ma'am.
vehicles.
For 3 vehicles, that's $250,000.
Yeah,
for
it's
3 vehicles.
It's about 220,000 for the vehicles and the equipment, and then the interest on that lease purchase agreement is the additional 20,000 or so.
So the vehicle has a price, and then your outfitting has a price.
Yes, and we're reusing a lot of the equipment from the car that we would be auctioning off and decommissioning. When we can reuse equipment, we do. Now, some of the equipment, I will tell you, in these vehicles is beyond its life expectancy and doesn't perform the way it was intended originally. But we're making do the best we can.
So I don't think that we approved to purchase a vehicle a year. We did talk about department heads providing a phasing out of the vehicles. And I believe on that, we're out of all the phases, right? We're way behind.
Yes.
Yeah. So on average, your officers, how many hours a week are they working?
42.
42 hours a week.
If they just work their normal schedule. We're on an 84 hour schedule, which
Right.
is every 2 weeks. They work 7 12-hour shifts every 2 weeks.
And out of that average 42 hours, how many hours are spent in the car?
More than half.
More than half. So it's safe to say that their vehicle is their main office, their main residence for most of their time on shift?
Of course, it's their office. Like you
Okay.
might go to work and sit at your office and you have pictures on your bulletin board. They do that with their squad cars. That's
Right.
where they live and do all of their work for 42 plus hours a week.
So similar to many people that work in an office or somewhere else, we like some sort of comfortability in our little office space and pictures, something to call our own. And that's why you're trying to get these vehicles so that they can have something of their own while they're working.
Well, it's several reasons. One is that, we want to take care of the guys that are out there taking care of us. But also by limiting it to one person, they last a lot longer. We can expect it to last many more years than it would if you hot seated and it's shared among officers. Also, for an administrator, it makes it much easier for me to hold people accountable. When I come out and you do the logistics on it, you check the stats on, okay, why does this car need tires more often than these other cars? I can ask this officer, how are you driving this vehicle? How are you maintaining it? What are you doing to keep it, in good running condition so we don't have to get tires? Why are you doing something different? But if you're hot seating it, there's no way to know over time why that vehicle didn't last as long.
So I guess my main point that I was getting at is that right now we have a hard time coming up with funds for facilities for these guys. They're working in places that holes and all kinds of stuff. So we actually have an option to give them something worthwhile to look forward to their day-to-day work. Someplace that is actually running good, running smoothly, something that they can take pride in. So if we can provide them some sort of comfortability and stability in their day-to-day job, at least we can do this for them until we figure out where the buildings are going to come from.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm disagreeing with you about the comfort thing. I want their butt over at my house if something's going on. I want that car to work, and I want them over there fast. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it. And so if they don't have the equipment that's running and we're short of cars and they're not out patrolling doing what they're hired to do because we haven't provided them with the equipment they need to do that job, then I guess our insurance will go up on our house because we don't have the coverage that we expect and need. And we have to realize that PMB, if you didn't read the article in the paper, they expect to turn over those lots over on the Ellis side, over on the west side, 34, 33 in June. That would be, 5 days from now? 6 days from now, they're going to turn it over to the builders. And then in August, they'll turn over the east side. That's 500, almost 600 houses. And we are providing the service to them. So what is that? Almost doubled our population, or at least it's a 50% increase in short order here. So, microphone.
So the question from the audience was, how long would these vehicles last? Yeah, so right. Do you want to come up? I can hear you, but they have to hear you.
Vehicle's going to last us for a long time, and the cost is going to go up. And I can verify getting a car is very difficult right now. It takes a long time. We have to think ahead of time. If we postpone it, look at the car lots. They don't have vehicles. In June, they're usually full. So it's just saying what he is telling us is correct. We've got to get a move on and get it done, in my opinion.
How many vehicles do we have right now and what are the year models?
And currently does all officers have a car?
Almost. Right now, our vehicles we have 6 total. The one I drive is a 2015 Chevrolet. We have a 2016 Tahoe, a 2017 Ford Explorer, a 2019 Dodge Charger, a 2019 Chevy Tahoe, and a 2020 Chevy Tahoe. We expect, if we go to this, that the target mileage of a patrol vehicle is 25,000 miles a year. And with a replacement at about 150,000 miles would give us a lifetime service of 6 years, a service of lifetime of 6 years. I'm estimating that short. I think that we will go much longer than that, but I don't want to mislead anybody. If we had an increase in the amount of miles we had to drive or something to that effect, I'm really being conservative with that. And then administrative vehicles, we expect 15,000 miles a year, so those would last about 10 years.
So you said that you're going to be reusing some of your gear to upfit the new vehicles?
Yes, sir.
So I would assume that would place those vehicles out of service?
Yeah,
Once
when
you
we
take
do
it-
the upfits, we would have to.
So then we would auction those off and recoup some of the cost?
So there's only one vehicle that I'm recommending that we auction, and that is the Ford. And there's a chart in your paperwork. Even though it's not as old as one of the Tahoes, it's costing us a lot more in repair. So far, just this year, that Ford has cost $3,843 in repairs. It's killing me. I recommend we sell that one because I think we could still get a pretty good price for it. But then retain the Tahoe that has 120,000 miles on it and use that as the pool vehicle, because it can stretch out, another 100, 30, 40,000 miles. And if it's a pool vehicle, it won't be used as often. And then also that's the car that the reserves would share. And then I would like to take the Charger and strip it of the markings on it and make that a CID vehicle for Sergeant Soltaire. We spoke about this at the vision and budgeting meeting where, if you're the victim of a crime and we have to do follow-up with you, sometimes the last thing the victim wants is a marked squad car back out in front of the house. And now people are asking about that again. And there's a lot of different reasons why a CID would have an unmarked vehicle, but we would retain the Charger for that purpose. We wouldn't need to buy a new one for that. We would use that one for the CID vehicle and make that an admin vehicle, which would, of course, also incur a lot fewer miles per year.
Do you have a question?
Just for everybody's clarification, when they did the replace one vehicle a year, I believe that was 2014 or 15. So none of y'all were here and knew about it, but you can look it up in the, I wanted to give them some
I thought it'd
timeline.
been more recent than that.
No, it was
Okay.
2014 or 15, because it was back when Davis was here.
Okay.
And then the other question is, why do we have to do them by the end of May instead of the end of June? I mean, we can't order next month.
No, ma'am. They are accepting requests for vehicles through May, and we haven't been given a hard and fast date yet of when they are going to cut off requests for vehicles. But once they do, if you don't have your order in, you will not get vehicles next year. They're that scarce.
Go. Got another question?
What is your buying power in the city? At one time we were going to piggyback on, say, Tarrant County or say Decatur. They would buy larger allotments in vehicles or materials or equipment, but I haven't ever seen that in the city. We just go out and buy it on our own. And I can understand, okay, PW wanted 3 new vehicles all at one time. Now we want 4 here. Now you've got a total of 7. I'm wondering what Tarrant County bought. that you couldn't get a better price on. I mean, buying power means a lot, and you need to negotiate and be able to have savings. And I understand time because there is a crunch on cars. I get that. I just went through that myself. But they're available, and I think that we need to research how we buy things. We need to understand that I need it tomorrow. I'm sorry I did too, but that's not going to happen. And now with the crunch the way it is, to where you have to sit back and wait after you order, but why not reach out and say, because I know somebody brought this to the table. I'm not just saying, oh, Tarrant County has a buying power or buying process that they can save a lot of money. And if we can piggyback on that, why wouldn't we do that? And it may not work for what we're doing here today because of the situation in our economy, because it's a bad situation right now. I think everybody's feeling that, but I think we do need to start doing our homework.
Well, I will say department heads do look at other agencies to do cooperative purchasing agreements with them. But in this case, I don't think that was an option.
This particular purchase is on the state contract at pricing at their point. But to your point, I agree. It was just a couple, maybe 3 months ago, that we entered into that interlocal agreement that we brought before the council to piggyback off of Frisco PD for uniforms. So I want to reassure you, I do not spend money frivolously, especially from the city. I don't do it at my house, and I don't do it in the city. You know, if we can get it cheaper, by gosh, we're going to get it cheaper. I have lots of calls out. We've taken donations. Shout out to the city of Corinth. They've given us some donations recently, as well as the Water District Police, Chief Knack. And we are also, I've got an email out to Council of Governments right now, hoping to maybe get some equipment through them. So I'm doing what I can to try to get things at a reasonable price, or even donated when possible. Yes, ma'am. My phone number is listed. If anybody ever has a question about how we run things at the police department, you're more than welcome to call me or come by and visit. Yeah, you do.
Mrs. Majors, did you have a question?
Okay, real quick. Is the vehicles, the Tahoes, are they just a basic Tahoe that you're looking for that you order? Are they already fitted like when you order them?
These are police pursuit rated Tahoes. These are not something you would
Like
just
when you
go
order
to
them
Chevy
from-
and buy it.
So when you order them, it's already ordered.
It's a police rated, so it's different brakes, it's different engine, it's different than what you would buy off a lot.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's when we know that you're saying that we can't get them for a year, because you just can't go to James Wood and say, I want perfect. Okay, next question. So can you not show us a price that says how much you could sell the Explorer for? Could you not give us a price? Did you not come with that today that says, okay, I can sell the Explorer for this amount of money? And the next one, if you stripped a vehicle, what would that be? That's what. Like you were saying something about stripping a vehicle or something. Yeah. So if that one too.
So reusing equipment means if we decommission the Ford, let's say for that one. And to your point, I looked at the value of auctioning a Ford Police Explorer, and it's anywhere from $12,000 to $17,000 right now. But I don't know until we sold it. Stripping a vehicle means taking equipment out of it and putting it in a new vehicle, say the radar, taking that out and putting it in a new vehicle. The WatchGuard camera system, taking it out of a vehicle and putting it in a different vehicle. I'm trying to get a donation right now of WatchGuard camera systems that are upgraded from what we currently use, and that would include some in-car vehicles, so we could put those in these new vehicles and not have to use taxpayer money for camera systems. They would be used, but they would be better than what we have now.
Is there any way we can get away with maybe 2 cars? and then next year we get on this every year, because obviously we weren't on that buy you guys a car every year, and now we're getting stuck all at once, which hurts. We could like do 2 cars, the other one to be
Sure.
paid.
The reason I'm doing this is for long-term planning. You can say we're not buying cars this year. That's certainly y'all's prerogative. What I'm doing is I'm recommending I think, in my professional experience in 26 years in law enforcement, this will be a long-term plan to save money, because the vehicle costs now are X. I don't have that in front of me. Next year it's going to be more. So we have a car that's not going to last that, it's going to last much longer than that, but you're going to pay a lot more than likely. There's no guarantee. Could prices drop? Sure. But they're way up now, and I fully expect it to just continue to go up. It's kind of like my church. When we started to talk about building a church, it was $17 million. Well, guess what? When we started fundraising, it took so many years that now it's 25 million. I mean, it was a lot of money, a lot more. So the longer we put this off, we're going to need the vehicles. But again, that's for you guys to make that decision. This is my recommendation.
But at the end of 5 years, we're going to be at what, 2027. You got these vehicles.
So
they're going to be old at that point.
No, ma'am. So what I anticipate is in 2026, Unit 124 would be at its end life, and Unit 100 would possibly be at its end life.
I know you said there was a chart in here, but I did not get a chart in my package.
Okay.
So which vehicles are you talking about?
So Unit 124 is a Chevrolet Tahoe that would roll end of life in 2026. Unit 100 is the admin vehicle that I drive. We expect it to last through 2026. In 2027, Unit 125 would come to its end of life. 2028, the other admin vehicle, the Dodge Charger, Unit 123, would come to its end of life. So they wouldn't all come to the end of, together. The next time I would think we would need to purchase more than, 2 in 2026, including an admin vehicle, but in 2029, you might have 3 roll off. But they would all be paid off by then. All that debt rolls off by that time. Chief Fitch is asking a question, asking if this was in the PowerPoint. Yes. The reason I came to this conclusion and how this would all play out is in the PowerPoint that was presented at the budget envisioning meeting, the special meeting. So anybody online can go to that and watch it online and see how it was explained.
So in the best interest of our police officers, keeping them safe and up to date and everything, as well as them protecting the city, I motion to approve the purchase of these vehicles.
We have a second.
I'll second that with the condition that when we get into the budget workshops and we look at that we have the option of canceling one of those cars if we have to.
Yes, ma'am. We've been assured that we can do that.
Even if I'm gonna keep forgetting, even if it gets we get the one vehicle paid, we want to just drop off the vehicle.
It gives us an option that way.
As long as we do it before the build process starts, which we don't anticipate until fiscal year next.
All right, got a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
So we got 3. Nays?
Yeah.
What was yours, Kathy?
I'm going to say
Need to know who voted. Who voted for it?
All but Meehan.
Okay,
Meehan
so
is
one
a
voted nay. Meehan.
Okay. All right, item K, discussion any necessary action regarding establishing sitting email addresses for mayor and council members, and that is mine. Ms. Northrop was sending information to my personal account, and I asked her not to send city-related information to my personal email account. In the past, she's had everyone set up individual accounts with Gmail or Yahoo or whatever. Early in Mrs. Wilson's tenure, she was hacked. And so what I have requested is that email addresses for all council, and they can just be place one, City of Rome, place two, etc., be set up through the City of Rome with basically we have an address that says at cityofrome.com, just like the city administrator and the city secretary have at this time. Like I said, first off, Mrs. Wilson was hacked early on, and then also there's a concern that information that is transferred on email accounts, when that person is no longer in office, that information is not retained by the City of Rome. It goes with them with that email address. So that's why I am requesting secured email sites or secured email addresses for the council members and the mayor.
Well, so, and that's fine. I mean, some cities do that, many cities do that. We are, I mean, this was council brought to you, I don't know, a year or so ago. And, you know, the choice was made to continue on with the private email addresses, making them separate. I did check. We do have, we are on the cloud, first of all, so it would not inhibit our server, and that would be important. What you would have to do is take cyber training, which we're in that period right now where by law we have to do that. Staff does that. Last year, most of you did it. Some of you did not. But if you do have city email addresses, you will have to complete that cyber training. And, you know, because there is an uptick, a huge uptick in legitimate emails or phishing coming in, and it looks like it's from a legitimate, you know, oh, here's your invoice you were asking for. And we get them at our home. Here's something from Amazon. Here's something from, you know, you just, you know, never click on those things ever. Go to your Amazon account, go to your AT&T account. Just never click on them. And so staff is trained. We do not click on those things. So no matter how realistic it looks. But we do have enough right now. We do have enough email addresses in our agreement with CenturyLink. So, I mean, if at some point in the future we would have to add more, we'd have to pay for those. But right now we do have enough to give the mayor and every council person a city email address. And it would be councilmemberplace1@cityofrome.com. It would be generic. And when you guys, you know, left office, that stays with the city.
So I'm a little concerned because we did have Ms. Wilson get hacked twice. If she had a city email address and there was ransomware on it, and that person held the city hostage, all their data hostage, I mean, that happens quite often, it seems like, especially to cities.
Yes.
So I'm just concerned about the
I mean,
security.
Well, right now, I mean, the cyber security is a huge issue, and there is always a risk. Now, we're pretty well protected, and I've talked to our IT guys, so we are pretty protected. Number one. Number two, especially for the price we're paying. Number two, it is through Office 365, so it is on the cloud. It would not be connected to our server, which is huge. And so, yeah. But if we just know, if you do that in the next, and I have to turn this in actually in June, and so staff has already completed theirs, but I will need you all to complete cyber training.
I think it's a good idea.
Will your motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Make a motion, we go to the city secured emails through the city. Okay, so we got a motion from Elaine Priest. I got a second from Meehan. And all in favor?
Aye.
Was that unanimous?
Yes.
Yay.
Okay. Future agenda items, what I would like to discuss is going back to starting meetings at 6 p.m. And then doing executive session immediately thereafter. We had some folks show up tonight at 6 o'clock thinking that was our meeting time, but that's the time we used to meet. It wasn't really a big deal, so I'd like that put on the agenda to discuss.
That's fine. So do you want the meeting to start at 6 p.m. and the executive session to be
Yes.
at the end of the night?
That's what I said. Yeah,
Just
6
clarifying.
o'clock,
Thank you,
starting at
Mayor.
6 o'clock, and then have executive session immediately following,
At 6 o'clock?
after the 6 o'clock meeting. If we're in session till 8 o'clock, then the executive session would follow.
Okay, at the end of the meeting, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, if you'll put that on the agenda, please.
I will.
All right. Anybody else have anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I have several things I'd like to ask to have on the agenda. One is when we had our first economic development meeting, it was a small group, but we did have a meeting, and a lot of you folks know Jazz that owns the Shell station, and he volunteered to take the old Grandy sign and suggested that the city have that redone, and the city could use that as a marquee for city events and businesses and stuff like that. So I would like to put on the agenda the possibility of modifying that sign and taking him up on his offer, see what those costs would be. Is it feasible, from a remodeling, or is that even doable? So could we just investigate that? The next one is we really need to start looking seriously at our facility options and make some decisions so that we can incorporate whatever it is we decide to do in the upcoming budget. And we've got to make those decisions or to know what the challenges are. And then the last thing I would like for us to discuss is a possibility of a summer intern that is usually done with a university that has a upcoming grad student that they come and work this summer to help us get caught up on some stuff. And of course, that is a much cheaper route. So I'd like for those three things just be discussed as possibilities.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Do I need a motion to adjourn, or do we just adjourn?
You make a motion.
You'll
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's second? Kathy? Very good. All right, we're out of here. Thanks.